Hello everyone and welcome to another GTR 24/8 interview. I'm joined by Carl Newiss from the Dysfunctional team racing. Carl, how are you doing today?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Yeah, it's a nice weekend, so yeah, nice weekend relaxing, and yeah, like I say, we've got a few bits planned, but yeah.
Well, I want to jump straight in with your team and just get a bit of info about, what classes the Dysfunctional team racing in and what are your goals, your aspirations for the Nürburgring 24 Hours.
Yeah, so we're going to be racing in the SP9 class, which is obviously the GT3s. We've sort of looking to choose the BMW, and yeah, moving on with that, we're going with the BMW. I think really just because obviously in the name of the Sabine Smits. So yeah, obviously we thought that would be quite a fitting car, and yeah, we're looking to be very competitive. We're putting a lot of hours into the practice, setups and everything else with the cars. So yeah, our aspirations are to do well. Would be nice to win, obviously. Even better to survive, I think, because yeah, it's a tough track, and anything can go wrong on that track as well. It's quite narrow, so any incidents can cause major issues for everybody. So it's going to be interesting.
Now, 24 hours at the best of times are difficult, but the Nürburgring even more difficult, one of the longest circuits in the world. Can you just give an idea to some of our viewers who may not have raced on the Nürburgring before or may not have raced in general, just how hard it is to complete a 24 hours at the Green Hell?
Yeah, I mean, completing 1 hour can be hell. So yeah, it is a tough track. It's winding. You've got a lot of blind bends. You're up and down. Downforce is one of the key sort of the issues here. Like I say, could be fast in the corners. So yeah, it is tough. And obviously, I mean, depending obviously, your in-game settings as well and things like that. I mean, personally, I go for immersion, so I try and keep it as real as possible. So for me, it's going to be tough. I mean, I've got a very high full force feedback wheel, and yeah, you can certainly tell the difference on this track compared to any other track you're racing. And then obviously, yeah, so you're looking anywhere between 8 and 8.5 minutes for a lap time on sort of race fuel, etc. So you're going to be going for a long time. Your concentration's got to be high. Overtakes. It's going to be interesting. Who's going to be brave enough through the carousels? I think, and yeah, I think it should bring some interesting racing. And obviously 24 hours. I'd like to think hopefully not everybody's going to be too risky on the first lap.
Well, I mean, the first lap is a long lap, so things will probably change from the start to the end. You mentioned you're in the GT3 class, and one aspect that I always find is important is the whole kind of lapping procedure when you're in multi-class racing. With you guys being in the GT3 class, you're going to have a lot of the LMP2s coming up, the 2-lap you. How difficult do you think it's going to be to kind of catch those LMP2s, or for the LMP2s to catch you in the right places so that you don't affect each other as badly as you could?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because I've previously done endurances as the LMP2, and yeah, it's one of those you kind of have to trust the GT3s. So for us, it's going to be you at the end of the day, as a car, you can't worry too much about your mirrors. You've got to stay on your line, and you've kind of got to trust the LMP2 as well not to mess his race up by trying to make a move, in a silly corner. They have to be patient. We have to be patient with obviously other slower classes than us. So it kind of works both ways. Yeah, everybody has to have that kind of understanding that a GT3 is going to let the LMP2 class pass. Yeah. But you have to do it in the right way. You have to do it safely. Otherwise, like I say, you could end up ruining everybody's night and days, and it's a long event. So at the end of the day, if you're going to be slowed down if you lost a second through a corner just because you couldn't pass a GT3, or a GT3 couldn't pass the lower class sectors, for example, you're not going to lose over that much time over the 24 hours. So yeah, just keep an eye out for everybody, and just keep on your racing line. I think is going to be the key there as well. So.
I want to jump in a bit more to your team, Dysfunctional Team Racing. How long have you guys been sim racing for? Because this is your first event with GTR 24H. So I'd just like to get a bit more into information about how long have you guys been sim racing? What platforms have you been racing?
So Dysfunctional Racing, we're quite a new team, basically as of the last maybe couple of months, I'd say. We've all been sim racing for some time now. I mean, I've been a few years now. Mainly started on PC, I suppose, just like Formula One, the Formula One games, I suppose, before. Okay. Same with some of the other guys out here as well. We've kind of all, started out with the Formula One series, and then sort of kind of got into like a set of course, and then obviously a set of course of competition and things like that, just to kind of the various GT3s and other endurances. Obviously, iRacing as well. We do a fair amount of that as well. So we've all been between us all quite a few years between us, just as a team. We're all quite new, but we've all raced against each other as well. So we all know how competitive each other we are, how good we are, how quick we are, kind of strengths, weaknesses, things like that. So we've done a few events now over the last sort of couple of months. A few of us racing a few different teams as well. We don't tie it down here. It's more of a fun team as such. But we'd like to start. Obviously, hence we're signing up here, start taking things up more seriously, and I think we've got the potential to do it. So why not test ourselves?
And you mentioned that you kind of know each other's strengths and weaknesses. How many do you have in your team for the 24 hours? And do you have any specific roles? Is one of you kind of in charge of dealing with setups, or another one in charge of dealing with strategies, etc.?
We don't really, because there's three of us that are going to be doing it. Okay. You've got myself, you've got Felix, and then you've got Justin. So you've got me, myself, and Felix. We're from the UK, and obviously Justin's from the US. So we've got a little bit of dynamic as well in terms of stint times and things like that. So it could work in favour. So he's 5-6 hours whatever behind us or whatever. So when we start getting a bit tired, we'll try and work out the stints fairly between us all. But as in terms of strategy, we kind of all help each other there. Not one of us has, I suppose, any more knowledge than what anyone else does. We have one person have a little bit of knowledge that someone else doesn't. We input that in terms of the setups. I've sort of taken, I suppose, on the setup role, I guess, and then I'll feed that to the guys. They'll run it. We see what we're comfortable with. If they want to make a change, we go and make sure the whole team's comfortable with that setup. So it's trying to find that balance now between a stable car, a quick car, and one we know we're going to be able to survive. And obviously, of course, if the rain does end up coming, then we've also got to find the right setup that's not going to hinder us too much there as well. So it's going to be interesting.
And in terms of those setups, once you've made a setup, do you ever get from someone else after you think you've improved it, someone saying, I don't quite like this setup? How similar are your driving styles, and is it a challenge to find a setup?
Does happen. We've had it in a few events previous as well. And then to be fair, we did it previously. We did an 8-hour race of Monza, which unfortunately only lasted, I think it was about 4 hours in, but we got the car running really well. We had really good pace leading up to the event. We got to the event, the car just didn't feel right. So I don't know what it was there, but we didn't check. We didn't change anything. But it's just one of those. I think as well for this, it does happen. People get to a point of, I think, maybe too much practice sometimes, and start to overthink and overfeel how the car can drive. And sometimes people's styles change a little bit. I find mine can change on a really bad day. I'm having a bad day, I'll think, it's the car, but it's probably me just, I probably just need to take a break from it. So I think we're all generally about the same sort of style. I'd say probably Felix is probably a lot more aggressive as a driver as me. He's very pacey. So in terms of that, we've worked out that kind of, Justin and Felix are quicker. We'll kind of probably sacrifice the way I feel for the car in terms of making sure they put the pace, but I then get used to driving. I don't have to adapt that much. We're all very similar, so it does make it quite easy within the team having quite similar styles as such, but having that dynamic of aggressive, maybe more self-conscious as such and things like that. So
now, whenever I get to interview drivers, I always get the luxury of seeing a little bit into their setup. So I can see your play seat rig and the Fanatic sim wheel. Why don't you talk us through your setup and just give us all the cool deets for all of us sim setup geeks out there.
Okay, so I've got the play seat Sensation Pro. Do you want me to move the camera around a little bit like a supernatural? Take it off the clip. And so I've got the PlaySeat Sensation Pro, which is obviously what I'm sat in. Which then I've obviously got the Fanatec CSL Elite at the moment, with the Formula V2 wheel, which I do like because obviously it gives you sort of quite a bit of tactile feedback. You get the vibration, things like that through it. So engine, just sort of kind of some road vibration you get, through a steering wheel you wouldn't normally, and the engine revs and things like that, and obviously wheel locks, ABS can be fed through it. I tend to keep it more to what the wheels are doing as opposed to what the car vibrations around, because I've actually got base shakers on my rig as well.
Okay.
Which I sort of built all myself. I purchased the parts and then just sort of built it in rapid. So I can feel the left-hand curbs, right-hand curbs. So I can kind of feel the occasional sort of bumps and things. It's not too sensitive to the minor bumps, but it does heighten that sense of sort of immersion, if you like, because I race in VR, which is I try flat screen and I can't get into it. It's just it's the whole flat thing in front of you. I've got track IR as well, but so I've got I've got a HP Reverb G2 on the back of me, which I find is a brilliant VR headset. And then so obviously I've got the 43-inch 4K monitor, but again that's just purely for that. And if I ping the camera around, obviously that's my PC there. So quite recently bought, which the sort of spec on that is that's a 30. That's got a 3090 in it, so I was quite lucky to pick one of those up with an I think it's got an i10 processor and everything. So quite a beefy rig, and I think I need it for the VR as well, because I'll be doing the event in VR, which would be interesting to say the least. To say your face gets a little bit sweaty, but and obviously button box as well. If you just see that as well, so I just have that again. Just adds a few more buttons that I need, especially when I'm VR. It's you're just not trying to hand palm the keyboard to press the buttons. It can get a little bit sort of hard work when you're trying to sort of set things up in VR, and then obviously you've got your button box. So you kind of have to remember where your hands are to know where buttons are, because it's there. It's not too bad, and I find it nice and easy. So that's my set. I've got a little fan to keep me cool. So that's kind of my setup really. I'd say it's I'd love a DD wheel. That's my next goal. You never know, if we win then that might be the upgrade.
Okay, so the final question that I do have to ask you is, because your sim setup is very cool, have you ever done any real life racing, let's say?
No, only track days. I am looking to actually get my racing license. I've actually got my application I need to fill in. So I'm looking to do a couple of track days on either Brands Hatch or Donington, just to get my I think I've just got to get my national license basically, so I can start. I'm looking to get into sort of the GT4s. Sort of the customer racing side of it. There's a couple of teams up there, Silverstone, I've been in touch with and things like that. So they're kind of giving me a bit of a path to head down. I'm in my mid-30s, but you know what? I work hard. You work hard, you play hard, and I've always wanted to race. So I thought, you know what? It's not ever too late to try and do something, even if I never get to do it. At least, like I say, I've got money if I could do the odd track days and things, and it's all experience. And I'd love to do it. I've done karting and things like that, of course, but. It would be nice to actually do a real car as such on the tracks. And one day maybe even do the Nordis Life in real life as well.
Well, hopefully we get to see you on the real stage as well at some point. Otherwise, we look forward to seeing you on the track for the Nürburgring 24 Hours. Thank you very much for your time. Right. It's been a pleasure, and best of luck to you and the team for the 24 Hours.
Thank you very much.